Greetings, my viewers, and just anyone who happens to be looking at this video. I decided that today I would talk about something that pretty much happens with every new Pokemon release. I call it the infinite cycle of the pirated release. Also, don't ask about why I'm walking around in a circle in the background. It was just one of those streams I did.
Is there more to us than the words we say, the games we play? Can we know that we're not dreaming?
So, here's how it goes. You all know the song and dance routine by this point. Every couple years we get a new Pokemon game released. It starts out small, nothing serious, the occasional leak, the occasional misinformation, the typical what the starters will look like fully evolved, and all the bells and whistles that comes from the hype of a new game being released into the world. Then it happens. Just a few weeks or even days before the full release, someone obtains an illegal copy of the game or manages to perform some hacking magic to obtain the full game and then releases pirated copies to the world. Everything gets leaked. The story, the new Pokemon, everything. Even full-blown playthroughs or even streams before the game is fully released, and Nintendo has to deploy their army of ninjas to shut things down and get everything back under control. But by then it's already too late, as people are already discussing gameplay and story spoilers, finding all the secrets and everything else in between. I don't know if this has happened yet, but a viewer on one of my streams mentioned how someone got a hold of the game and was going to be releasing pirated copies the next day. Again, this is just what one of my viewers says. I don't know if this has actually happened yet. So if it has not happened, it did not happen, etc., then just ignore all that. So, why does this happen? And specifically, why does it happen with only Pokemon games specifically? Other game franchises have midnight releases. Other games have just as long libraries with their titles. But why is it specifically Nintendo with Pokemon that has to deal with this seemingly endless cycle? Personally, I think it has something to do with just how little information Game Freak and Nintendo in general gives us when it comes to the games. For example, when Sword and Shield released, they were still releasing trailers talking about newly discovered Pokemon. And among those was the starters. 2 months almost since the game was released, they were announcing that the starters evolved and showing off the newly evolved forms. They were even talking about the signature moves and their G-Max forms, etc. Game Freak and Nintendo are very stingy with telling their audience anything related to Pokemon games. And while this can increase the hype for a game's release, it can also work as the double-edged sword of the franchise. The more they don't tell us, the more we want to know. And the more we want to know, the more we'll be likely to just skip the release and get early pirated copies of the game or look up the information from said pirated copies. They like to drip feed us information about the game, not revealing anything new, but just building off the last bit of information they revealed and then adding just a little something to help build the hype. Like, they revealed the fact for Gen 9 we'll be able to pick our adventure, not go down the typical gym challenge trial, although we can't do that, but we have the choice now. Then they showed us 3 trainers doing exactly that, and then showed off each of the 3 trainers having different experiences, revealing a new Pokemon here, revealing a new class of an already revealed Pokemon there, and finally revealing a new gym leader here and there. This is all good for building hype, but it also makes us want to know more and demanding why they keep hiding information that we've already been clamoring for since they showed it off. I mean, just look at Sprigatito, also collectively called Weedcat by the internet. You can't tell me otherwise, Emily Floof. I know you're saying that. Since day one, it has been the topic of the community, and until we see its fully evolved form, everyone is going to assume it's going to stand up and just be Gen 9's Incineroar. Heck, even the leakers and the misinformation people are all saying the exact same thing. It's going to stand up. So, when Game Freak won't share the evils of the starters, we're going to look to pirates to tell us what we want to know. Heck, For a lot of people, the final evos of the starters is often what determines which of the starters we're going to pick when we first play the game. Okay, so we get it by now. We understand now. They don't want to spoil the game before it's released to incentivize us to buy it, but we're still left with the same problem as before. Pirates getting access to early copies of the game, pirating it, releasing it to the world. People spoil everything in the game before it's officially released. So, how do we fix this problem? How could we fix it to begin with? Well, I have a few ideas. Unfortunately, I don't know if they'll actually do anything. But, for starters, stop keeping the starters' evolutions hidden until either the day of the game's release, or deciding to reveal the starters weeks or even months after the game's release. Another thing, stop putting the game footage not final message. We all know 90% of the time that is false, and the gameplay footage is in fact final when it comes to a Pokemon game. One more thing they could do is reveal more Pokemon, specifically returning Pokemon, as that is now another huge factor for fans, and something people will be looking to pirates to tell them. Revealing Pokemon passively in trailers is one thing, but just publicly announcing a lot of returning Pokemon will go a long way for some people, as the only Pokemon guaranteed to get a ticket into each new game is almost always going to be legendary Pokemon, the Evolutions, and Pikachu and its evolution line. Returning Pokemon is going to be a big turn away for some people if their favorite Pokemon won't be allowed back. It's not the deciding factor for everyone. Heck, it's not going to be a deciding factor for me, but it is a factor for some people. Another way to help combat this issue is to talk about other locations in the game. Show us the world map. Show us the world we'll be exploring. Other ways is to talk about endgame content, as that is a huge area where Pokemon has always been lacking. What to do at the end of a new generation game when you've gone through the story mode. For the past 3 generations, starting with X and Y, all we've had was a singular location where we just battled a bunch of stock trainers leading up to the bosses of the location. With X and Y and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, it was the Battle Mason. With Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, it was the Battle Tree. And then Sword and Shield, it was the Battle Tower. There wasn't really anything else to do besides the standard get all the Pokemon, shiny hunt for all the Pokemon, search for the legends that we expect from every generation game. Sword and Shield gave us new locations to explore, but once those were done, we were left with the same problem, nothing else to do. And again, this is going to be something fans will happily pirate a game for, just to leak that there is no end game content that we keep hoping for. Finally, time. Time is another factor. These games get released extremely slowly. Not as slowly as other games, mind you. They do pump them out faster than what some other game franchises do. But not counting Legends Arceus, the last Pokemon game was Sword and Shield, almost 3 years ago. Fans finish these games in hours if they are dedicated enough, days if they are slower, and weeks if they're that busy. These games don't take that long to beat. So when one game is finished, we have to wait so long for the next one. And that begins the cycle all over again, where we wait for the next game, it gets closer to release, then someone leaks it, pirates it, and everything is spoiled and leaked to the world before the game hits the stores, only to repeat that cycle for the next game. I've been playing Pokemon for over 22 years now, and I'll keep playing it for as long as I still love Pokemon. Nothing will stop me except a clear lack of love and devotion from the developers. And while I can't stop these pirating, leaking cycles from happening, I can at least offer my 2 cents into why this happens and ways to mitigate it. But what about you? Do you have any more input into this idea that I didn't talk about, or didn't consider in this video? Or do other franchises suffer this problem and I just didn't realize it? Tell me down below, share the video, like it, and if you like what I do on my channel, consider giving me a sub. I stream on Twitch, which is where I do most of what I do. Chitty chat with you there. Bye bye!
from harm. If you trust in me, then I'll trust in you. There's nothing more that I need to do. If you put your hands in front of mine, we'll be shining